I recently picked up a Japanese Type 26 revolver. We'll zoom in and look at this. It was the older revolver for the head and amboos, I think from the 1890s. Double action only, break top revolver. And get it back in a 9mm caliber, which is 9mm 38's the same. A little break action. And it's pretty much reminiscent of that these type of revolvers were popular. There were a lot of them made for the civilian market, this style of the break action. I really don't have a ton of information on this gun, and it's hard to find info on this gun. There were slightly less than 60,000 of these guns made for the Japanese Army, and it fires, like I said, a rimmed 9mm, or it's kind of like a 38 caliber cartridge. Double action only. It's got that bobbed hammer and 6-shot. We'll get in a little closer and look at it. Okay, got a lanyard loop. There's a couple variations with different types of grip styles. Some are lined. You know, I'm not an expert on it. I picked this up. There's the bobbed hammer, double action. And you know, you break it open and it ejects, auto ejector. And it's a pretty neat little gun. I've seen a few of them. I seen one years ago and in my cousin's gun shop, and was in a holster, and it was pretty well rusted and that. It's hard to find them in nice condition unless they've been redone. But I'll basically show you a little. It's this simple old revolver. Now, field stripping this or opening up the action is pretty simple and easy. Get back a little. You just kind of yank down on the trigger guard. I'll do it this way. You just kind of push it. You push it kind of forward and it unlatches. I don't know if you can see that. It unlatches from there. Then once it's unlatched, see, you kind of put pressure on the back of this and it'll unlatch. Once it's unlatched, there's a little groove up in here where you can get your finger up in there. And it's kind of like the Nagants, the whole side plate will come off, exposing the action. This half of the grip comes out. So there you got your whole action exposed to clean, lubricate, whatever. And it's basically how you can field strip this. Pretty simple design. And you just swing it back and then latch it. And there's a screw here, and you know, it's like on most of them brake tops. You pull that screw out, there's a sleeve and cylinder goes through the other side. It's threaded, and that's the pivot point there. And you know, you unscrew that, and then that comes out, and there's some washers and the little thing with the arm that, you know, trips the activator and kicks out the cases. It's a pretty simple gun. I took it out, and instead of doing a separate thing on reloading, I found that, you know, that case has been obsolete for many years. And I found that if just looking at the different cases, the 38 Colt Short is very close to this. And it is made by Starline Brass, makes 38 Colt Short. The only thing about the 38 Colt Short is the overall case length is about 100 or 1/8 inch short than what this Japanese cartridge should be. And the only other way to do it is take either 38 Smith & Wesson or 38 Special, and what it is the rim thickness here. The thickness of the rim is what the big sticking point is. And what you would have to do with a 38 cartridge, not only trim it to length, is, but you'd have to remove material from the front of the rim where that little groove is on this side, not the back side. Because if you thin the back side, the primer will stick out of the base of the case. And so you'd have to machine or cut a bit off of here. I don't know exactly what the length. So my quick and down and dirty method was to use a 38 Colt short case, because then the rim thickness and that, when it goes in there, because what would happen is when you place, even if you trimmed them to length, you put the case with the thicker thing in there, the thicker rim, it would stick up and not be flush. And then when you try to index the gun, that would create a problem. So my solution was, do a little down and dirty, is just take 38 Colt short. I had, back when they came out with the 9mm Beretta in the military, they did, I don't know if they still do or not, but they made like 147 grain bullets. And I bought this mold a long time ago and casted a bunch of these. They're about 147, almost 150 grains, these bullets. And I had them sitting around, I never loaded them, they've been sitting around for years. So just the ticket. Sized them to 356, which is what it calls for the bullet diameter. And I loaded them up on this, and you load this light. I only put 3.5 grains of unique in there. And it's a real light load. It should only get that bullet going at about 600 feet per second, but that's a little cartridge I made to go in there, which seemed to work pretty good. Okay, it ended up working well. I got a segment here. I'm going to include all of this. I'm not going to do a separate one for reloading and that, because I ran into a problem with this gun. It's going to need some work, and I'm not going to be able to do much with it till I correct this problem. But I made a little cartridge. Now the only difference between this, the Japanese cartridge had a round bullet, reminiscent like the old-fashioned 38s. And I did get a mold for a 150 grain round nose 38 bullet, which I can size to 356. But I didn't have a chance to cast them, so I just whipped this up real quick and wanted to take it out and shoot the gun. But I'll show you the segment where I'm shooting it, and I ran into a problem, and I had to come home and disassemble the gun. And I'll quickly explain it to you and get this part out. But what the problem was is, I'll zoom in here and I'll pull this out, is the latch, which is this piece here. The latch that locks down. And how that works is that latch comes down and locks. And there's a little tab right here on this latch. And when this is down in the correct position, there's a cutout in the top of the hammer. So when the hammer's all the way there, it kind of goes over and grabs that little tab and then locks the whole pistol together. It's kind of like a safety feature. And what happens here is this was going up, and the hole where the latch was, that's why when I'm firing the gun, it's not going off, because the hammer's hitting this thing, and basically the actions, you know. I went and shot it a little bit to make sure it wasn't shaven lead, you know, the cylinder lined up. And the reason is, on the back of the hammer, I'll show you again. I was a little nervous firing this gun because this design is old. The stop, the cylinder stop, I believe is that tab. There's a tab down here, and when you pull this trigger back, that comes up and engages your notches here, your cylinder stop notches. It's on the back of this hammer. And that's what aligns your cylinder to the barrel. So it's an old design, simple design, kind of not really safe, reminiscent of the old guns of this. Well, the guns of this age were designed that way. So I checked that out, but then I found out this latch was broken. And I'll show you what it is. I'll just remove this screw and get it out and show you what the problem was. And then I'll add on the part where I got a few rounds out of this pistol. Okay, here I got the latch. The latch goes in top of the gun right there, and I took the screw out. There's a spring up in here that applies pressure on the my hand's shaking today. On the front of this latch. Okay, and then this drops down. There's that tab that locks in when the hammer closes. It kind of pushes down and locks it even more. Well, what the problem is you see where this thing rotates here, is it's cracked here. I got a crack right in there, and the hole's kind of out around, and it's broke up in here. So basically finding parts for these guns, especially these old guns, is impossible. There is a place I'm going to send an email out and see if there's a guy that makes repro parts that can make me one. Numerich Arms doesn't have any. Fabricating this myself might be a little on the difficult side. It looks like a one-piece deal. I may contact someone, see if they have some or can fabricate one. It's going to probably be extremely expensive. Or I can go and try to repair that with a high temperature solder, gunsmithing solder, like they solder sights on with. That may do it. I'm going to have to get some sort of a torch and really have to get up to about 600-700 degrees, and it can be done, but it's tricky. The soldering part is, you got to have the temperature just right where you hit the solder and let the solder more or less draw in there. If you heat the part up too much, then the solder just beads and doesn't go into the crack. If it's not hot enough, the solder won't melt. So it's can be done. You can solder steel with high temperature solder, but it's a very difficult thing to do. It's not an easy task. I've tried it once before, and I didn't have any success, but I may have to sit down and concentrate and work on that. Alright, so this gun here, that's a quick fix on the ammo. Any questions about loading the ammo, you can just email me. And now I'm going to attach the other segments where I was out shooting this a few times. And that'll be it for now, because this gun here, I'm not going to have anything more with it or work with it until I repair this piece or replace it, which may take some time. So I'm going to combine it all in one video, and that's it for the Type 26. We're going to give our Japanese Type 26 break action revolver a little workout shooting. The other videos I made describing the gun, it's a old-fashioned break top revolver. And I whipped up some hand loads using a 38 Colt short with a 9mm, a bullet cast for a 9mm auto, but a heavier one. The bullet's about 150 grains. So, dropped one. Six shots, break top, break action, double action only. So we're going to give it a try. Firing pin seems to be off, way off center. It's hitting the primers at an odd angle, way at the top. So it's not consistent. Ain't hitting them dead center all the time. Firing pin did look broke, so I guess we're going to have to take a look at it. Try to straighten that out, but I'll see if I can get these other ones to go off. Actually, it ain't bad. I'm hitting the target. Surprising. Now the cylinder keeps rotating backwards. It's like it's empty. Alright, let me load it up. We'll try to get 6 shots out of it. Okay, when I had 2 or 3 rounds in there, I'd fire it and then like the weight of the bullets would pull the cylinder back, and I kept pulling the trigger and it'd come up index 1 and drop back. I don't know if it's just worn or the design of this gun isn't the best, and it is another 100-year-old gun, you know, so we'll give it another pop. Well, it doesn't seem to want to lock up. So it looks like we're going to have to work on this gun a little, check it out a little better before we get to shoot it. Okay.